Welcome to the Apollo webinar. We've got a fun one lined up for you today. Now, today's agenda, quick housekeeping here before we get started, meet the hosts, of course, but then we're going to get into 6 ways to leverage call recording AI. I think you're going to like them because there's 6 prepackaged ways. Everything you can do today, this week, pretty easily, and they'll all have a pretty big impact. I'm going to show you how to do some of them in Apollo, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So, of course, I'm James O'Sullivan. You've seen me at these previous webinars. If you're signing up today for a free Apollo account, join me in one of the daily sales trainings. Say hi in chat. But today, bigger deal, Naya. She's our product marketing. She started off in sales. She's an expert on conversations. I'll let her introduce herself a little bit more. But when it comes to using AI with call recordings, nobody knows more about it than her.
Thank you, James. You're too kind. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Neha on the product marketing team here at Apollo. And yes, as James mentioned, not only am I covering our products like conversations, deals, and meetings, I'm also recovering AE. So I feel you guys. I've been there. And it's exciting to work on the tool side of tools that actually help AEs get their job done.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm glad you're here. And I think you're going to get us into the kind of setting up what we're discussing here today, right?
Absolutely. So yes, James, as I just mentioned, it comes to as no surprise as someone that's sold in the past. I have that experience as well. And this entire audience knows this as well. Closing deals is really hard. It's a really hard job. And so in my role as a product marketer, I do have the opportunity to do some research, talk to sales experts and leaders. And we conducted a global Apollo survey. And in this customer survey, in this survey, it was not just to customers, it was to non-customers as well. But in that survey, customer indecision and lack of customer trust were noted as the second highest reasons for losing deals. Obviously, all 3 of these reasons are very valid, but they're not as easy for you to control as a seller. Whereas customer indecision and customer trust are absolutely in your control, because the crux of everything that you're doing as a good seller really hinges on being able to build trust with your prospect. And that's why we're going to be digging into AI call recording today. It's a really wonderful lever in helping sellers build rapport and trust with their prospects to actually really move those deals forward. Now, when digging further into that second bucket there of customer indecision and lack of trust, we also did some interviews with dozens and dozens of sales leaders and lots of sales experts as well. And these 3 things came up most commonly as deal killers. So they come down to, 1, failing to secure next steps, not demonstrating enough expertise on the problem that your tool is supposed to be solving, as well as expertise on the customer. Maybe there wasn't enough pre-meeting research done, and they're neglecting to engage in multi-thread additional stakeholders. So it makes a lot of sense. Like all of these deal killers, at the crux of it, it really is about not appropriately building trust. So I thought it was really compelling that when you dug in deeper, it really did seem to match up. And so by leveraging AI-powered call recording, also known as conversation intelligence, you're going to see us actually using both terms throughout this webinar. So I'll do my best to make sure that I'm using both when I actually say it. But when you actually leverage AI-powered call recording, it becomes really the most accessible and quick way to address those deal killers head on. And you can actually start doing that today with a tool like Apollo. And even though there is probably a little bit of anxiety around AI, at the end of the day, AI is not going to be replacing sellers. It's only going to be replacing the sellers who aren't using it to their advantage. According to a study from HubSpot, reps that are using AI are saving over 2 hours a day, which is really significant because that gives you more time to do the things that you are actually really good at and really matter, which is building trust, building relationships, and actually selling and closing deals. And it doesn't simply stop with those efficiency gains. So maybe that isn't new information to you. What is even more compelling to me is, according to another study, conversation intelligence tools or AI-powered call recording tools, when you use them and use the insights that are generated from those tools to inform your deals, those sellers are seeing a 26% increase in win rates, which is really significant. And it really is largely due to the fact that you get these AI insights and this analysis that is done for you that surfaces what those best practices are and what your next step should be. And another study done by an analyst firm called Metrigy, when you dig into it a little further, that actually ends up translating into about a 21% increase in revenue, which is really significant. So if you're selling and your target is $200,000 and your revenue, your commission is 15%, so let's say that's $30,000. If you're increasing your revenue by 21%, you're going to be netting another $6,000 in commission, which is, it's significant, right? Like that's a couple mortgage payments, maybe a down payment on a car, or maybe like a really nice trip with your family. It's not nothing. And so what I hope and urge that everyone really takes away from today is that when you start using these tools that we are going to talk about today, you really can start closing more deals, and it can be significantly impactful in your earnings as well. And so what we're going to go over today is the 6 ways to close more deals with AI powered call recording. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to James so he can get us started.
Wonderful. So we got 6 tips. I mentioned prepackaged. The reason I like these is we've tried to take different things this tool can do and focus on specific areas you might want to improve or have already identified as something that's maybe a weak spot. So we're going to get into ditching your manual note taking, strengthening your discovery, how you can address competitors and objectives with objections, with your prospects in a deeper, richer way today as well as in the future. Proactively multi-threading, something to help you there, helping with your follow-ups and having much better follow-ups than we see most of the time, and optimizing your sales process overall. So let's get into the first one. Ditch manual note taking. Now, I had a lot of trouble with this one. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, I'd love to connect with you. When I posted about this webinar, I saw folks talking about Neha's comment about people freaking out about AI. This is a great spot where you could add AI, and it actually allows you to add more humanity back into your conversations, right, into your meetings. And the first one I want to hear is ditching manual note taking. This is actually a really big deal. I had trouble condensing this a little bit because if you're somebody that's still taking notes by typing in meetings, whether it's in person or remote, or you're not taking any notes, which is probably worse, then I'm not even going to give you the option. I want you to set this up today. If you already have a Poly, you can set it up without paying more. If you don't, you could use it on the free one. I want you to see the contrast here of what happens to your conversations and your meetings. It's a really big deal because when you're typing during a meeting, it's distracting. I actually tested this in person across a ton of meetings. When you handwrite notes in person, people talk more, give more answers. When you're typing, it's distracting. They talk less. They almost button up. They don't know if you're typing notes, if you're on Slack, if you're playing Doom 2. They have no clue. Same thing with remote too, if they could hear you typing that. You also end up just typing a lot of things verbatim. There's conflicting research on this, but generally speaking, you remember stuff, have a better insights when you handwrite it or when you're using AI to capture the insights. So when you're taking those notes, you're multitasking, you're unfocused, you're missing insights, which leads to poor deal execution, unimpressed prospects. The salespeople that are most likely to win are the ones that are asking the best questions. And this starts in that first meeting. So the more engaged you can be, the better questions you can ask. You want to be more like an FBI agent or a doctor. I really got into this when I met with my doctor, and he ended up telling me that he actually gets training and education, not only on how to act when there's a patient there, but on the questions and frequency of questions to ask. He said it makes an impact, not only with patient satisfaction, but with his capability to help somebody, and even if they'll take their medicine. So ask more questions. Be the most curious person folks are meeting with. That's really difficult to do when you're typing your notes and distracted. So with what we're going to show you today, and I'll walk you through setting this up, you can have AI record your meeting, pull the transcript, and get key insights, everything you'd want to capture in that meeting, made in a report for you. If you want to take notes still, handwrite them. You're going to remember it better. You're going to have better insights writing in shorthand, but at least have those full AI insights, the full transcript. You never know when you're going to need it, especially with those longer deal times. Things are taking longer now. And that's a big deal to me because I did test that. I always handwrite notes. I even do it when I'm remote, like on a Zoom call. If you haven't done it, try it. You'll see an impact immediately. So prepackaged idea number 2. And somebody was just asking about this in chat. Hey, can we train the AI to dig into stuff we care about, not just give us pre-configured insights? And you can. And that's important because solid discovery leads to solid next steps that move deals forward. And this has never been more important because deals are more complex. They have other people being involved, right? So when you configure keywords to track in Apollo, you can actually clump together groups of keywords, phrases, things you want the AI to look for. It's not going to overwhelm you because you won't see it unless you're interested in those insights. So Pritesh was asking, can we train it? Yes, you can on individual words, phrases, and entire collated topics you can put in here. We got some examples of ones that we think you'd probably benefit from: pain points and challenges, business goals and objectives, current solutions and processes, competitor mentions. I'm going to get into that in a second. Budget and decision making, desired features and needs. This will really set you up to thrive because now you're not relying just on what you typed, what you're remembering. You'll always be able to go back and pick one of these specific keywords or clump of keywords, find out exactly what was said. It'll even take you back to the specific moment it was said if you want that additional, richer context. Something really cool, probably the thing I'm most excited to show you today. You'll now have access to this. If you've already been in Apollo and you haven't seen this, when you set up conversations, you're going to have access to interviewing the bot. This is so cool. It's called Ask Apollo, and I'll show it to you with one of my meetings later. But there's a lot of people taking parts of their transcripts or meeting notes and or emails, popping it over into Chat GTP and asking it questions, asking it to analyze it. Imagine that, but now inside of Apollo, right where you have your meeting recordings. You can ask Apollo, ask the AI, anything you want, and it'll take those transcripts, all that data, and answer it. So you can actually go a step further than just your preset keywords, preset trackers, and ask anything you want about that conversation. And as you can imagine, it's pretty awesome now, and it's only going to get more and more impactful as more and more of your data goes in there. Now, this is a big one. And I'll tell you why in a second, but we just talked about keyword trackers, but here's prepackaged idea number 3. And a lot of people that weren't interested in keyword trackers are going to be interested in this all of a sudden because of how you can use it. So identify competitors and objections with keyword trackers. Now, this is a big deal because you're always going to lose deals. There's always going to be competitors that'll beat you sometimes. In this case, some people like Pepsi, some people like Coke. I love new Coke. I'm the one person, so I'm upset about that being gone, but you're not going to win every deal. And sometimes you'll know the competitor, sometimes yes, sometimes it won't matter because you're not even expecting to have the lead in the future. But if you can set yourself up to get better, smarter, and come back to those leads later, you can see some tremendous growth there. You can go after these. So the reason I'm mentioning this here is you can set up keyword trackers for specific competitors or objections or technology stacks or adjacent technology stacks. And why this is so cool is that you can actually search your leads that have been worked, leads that you've pitched before based on stuff they said, specific keywords or clumps of keywords. So I just met with one of Apollo customer who is actually using this. You can't use it until you have the data, but then at the end of the year, they're going through and creating lead lists based on objections, based on competitors, based on things that were said, and then optimizing sequences or messaging based on what was done there. And of course, when something happens, a competitor is no longer as good or their prices go up, it allows you to move really, really quickly because you just sort out all the leads that were using the competitor by objection, all the other filters that are available to you. It makes it really easy to go after new business or leads that said no before.
I love that you're calling them prepackaged ideas. So I'm going to steal that from you. But the next prepackaged idea is using a AI call recording tool to proactively multi-thread. As I mentioned previously, done tons of research. I've talked to dozens and dozens of sales leaders and experts. Multi-threading has come up on every single call. And it was actually really surprising to me as someone that has previously sold before, because it's a concept that we know that wasn't maybe quite named or branded like this. But yeah, no exaggeration, came up in every single call. So if you aren't familiar with the term, it simply refers to the sales strategy of looping in additional stakeholders either horizontally, so from other departments that are important stakeholders, or vertically, so like going up the chain of command. And the idea there is that the more threads that you create through multi-threading, the higher the likelihood is that you're going to be able to close the deal. For so many, the strategy is thought of being something that you only employ when you are getting started. So you're searching, you're going through the data, you're searching for leads, and then maybe you're outreaching those leads and doing your prospecting. But in reality, it's actually something that you should be doing the entire time. And AI call recording can help you do that. So some of the best ways to continue multi-threading once you're deeper into the selling process is to really level up your listening skills and to look at the insights around buying process, stakeholders, other involvement cross-departmentally, et cetera. Now, we are mere humans, right? So like we can only take notes so well. We can only listen so well. Like, we're doing a lot. We're multitasking quite a bit in today's day and age. So why not leverage keyword trackers the same way that we've sort of described previously in the previous slides? They are a really fantastic tool to help you identify when the buying process is coming up, when decision makers are coming up, and maybe when cross-functional involvement is mentioned on the call. And just like we saw, AI call recording can provide you with a ton of signals to pull in those additional stakeholders without threatening your champion. And so I think the key here is to make sure that that you are multi-threading, but you can do it wrong. So you want to make sure you're doing it without being a jerk, to be honest. So it really does require the tact, and that tact is going to come from the information that's being presented to you proactively during the call with your prospect. And so you'll see here, these are the 3 tips that we've boiled down from all the different interviews that we've done. But the best way to go about doing this is, one, make sure you're discussing previous purchases early in that process. You can learn what the process is. So you can learn who those additional stakeholders were when they last purchased something. 2, now that you know who those stakeholders are, like, plan to engage them, but you need to do it tactfully. So number 3, I think, is really key here. Make it a collaborative decision. So say that you are talking to James about selling your tool or your solution, maybe as a follow-up after a call. And what's cool is that we do Apollo conversations specifically will actually draft the follow-up email for you. So it's got all the notes in there, the action items, next steps, etc. And someone is asking in the chat, what does threatening the champion mean? So it's not literal. Obviously, no one is going out there and holding their champion at gunpoint. It's just a term that means that you are unknowingly going over their head without them being bought into the process of putting additional stakeholders into the process. So to not threaten the champion means that you are putting in additional stakeholders without necessarily making them feel like you're going around them. So hopefully that clarifies. Awesome. So yeah, to go over this 3rd point here, you want to make it a collaborative decision. And one way to do that is to end your follow-up with, hey, James, I see that we talked through this process. I've gone ahead and set up the next call. You did mention Cynthia was part of the last purchasing process that you went through. I think that in our next call, the things that we go over are going to be really relevant to the problems that she needs to solve for. Here's some resources I've attached that I think she's going to really enjoy. Why don't we go ahead and add her to the next call? So that's one way of you using the information that was presented to you and actually using it to your benefit to actually proactively multi-thread.
And you kind of set me up there. But our 5th prepackaged idea is sending those tailored, thoughtful follow-ups with AI insights. Now, as you mentioned, with everything you've seen, you already are probably thinking, I could follow up better already. What else can you be doing in here? But I want to highlight this more because your meeting is only as good as its follow-up. If you ever had a great meeting and didn't follow up, did that deal close? Most of the time, people don't come chasing after you. You still got to follow up. People are busy. And the problem here is that it's taking longer to close deals and more people are involved, right? You see more executive involvement in deals. So on average, it's taking 3 to 6 meetings for a deal to close. And I think I saw on HubSpot, they had it at 5. This is from one of our internal surveys of sales leaders. So it's taking a lot of meetings. It's taking more and on aggregate, taking more. All of those require follow-ups where not only do you need to tell people I was listening, I'm engaged, here's what we've learned, here's where we're going, but you need to make sure it's accurate, that you're talking to the things people want to hear. You could lose somebody's trust and your credibility at every step along the way. One of the reasons somebody was asking about what does threatening the champion mean, everybody out there that's a buyer has had somebody go around them and misquote them or not understand what they said and then go say something to one of their bosses. So generally speaking, most people don't like when salespeople go around them or start talking about what they said to somebody else. When you've got notes like this, ints like this, and you're providing recordings, there's going to be a little bit more trust and credibility there. You'll also be more engaged in the meeting, right? Now, the problem here is that very few salespeople are willing to follow up. Not only have to follow up on every meeting, but you got to follow up probably multiple times, sometimes to engage, to get them to do something they promised, to set up the next meeting if they couldn't do it on that last one. 8% of salespeople are having more than 5 follow-up touches. It's really difficult to follow up multiple times when you didn't have, if you don't have anything to say the first time you follow up, it only gets more difficult as that meeting's less fresh, as you're going back to your notes and you've got these random quotes or words that people said and it means nothing to you. So 44% of salespeople are giving up after one call. So the best practices here are a lot easier, not only with all these insights, but Apollo tees you up and does a lot of the work because there's just one button after a meeting. It puts together a basic follow-up email that has a lot of the stuff you're going to want in there. You can still build upon it, but it's got, for many people, it's going to be better than what you're already doing and you're going to be happy with it. But you obviously you want to summarize the call. You want to proactively schedule the next meeting and engage. My hope is that you're doing that on the call, but if you didn't, sometimes it's difficult. You pop it in there. Proactively multi-thread, provide relevant content, and follow up on any action items. It's going to be so much simpler when you could find the exact moment somebody said something, get the context. You could even include that clip. I'll show you when we go in app. And last one here.
Yes,
Number
last
6.
but not least, our sixth and final tip for leveraging AI call recording is to use the insights and the analytics that are surfaced from the calls that you're recording, and actually using that to optimize your sales process. So that can mean a couple of different things. That can mean literal process, like what do I do? What is the next step after I do this call? But today, I'm actually going to focus a little bit more on optimizing your sales process through sales coaching and improving the performance of your reps. So let's dig into it here. When it comes to effective sales coaching, and based on what I've heard from several sales leaders, you really need to anchor your feedback in data. What I'm hearing is that, especially when you're providing feedback on what you heard on a call, it can often come off as very subjective, and without having that data to really anchor your feedback in, it may fall on deaf ears. And so that's one of the benefits of AI call recording, is that it does surface a lot of these really cool metrics that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. Some of the things that you might be able to look at include talk ratio. So that's the average time spoken by the prospect and by the seller. And so the ratio is seller to prospect here. So, in a discovery call, it makes sense for it to be 70 to 30, because ideally the seller is talking less and asking questions, and the prospect is spending more time talking on the phone, answering those questions. And then for a demo call, it'll probably be closer to a 50-50. So these are benchmarks that we consider best practices, but obviously there's going to be, situations where it doesn't entirely match up, but it's a great way for you to at least dig in. If you have someone on your team that is taking a lot of meetings and having a lot of conversations, but isn't closing deals, this is a really great place to start to see what is their talk ratio. And if you're seeing that all of their first or second calls, which should be discovery calls, have a really wonky talk ratio of maybe a 70 to 30 versus a 30 to 70, it's a pretty key indication that maybe they need some additional support and training on how to best do their discovery calls. Some other really compelling metrics that I always like to bring up are, one, the patience score. And this essentially measures the amount of time between when a prospect is speaking and when a seller is speaking. And it's a really compelling way to look at sentiment as well. So, if there is a call where the patient score is really short, that can be indicative of it being a really tense call, which is, sometimes means nothing, but it's a really interesting insight to have. I would say that's probably more common in a negotiation call. And then there's on the other side of the spectrum, if there's a really long patient score, that could be indicative of someone's disengaged. It's either the prospect because they're not really responding and there's a lot of silences on the call, or maybe it's the rep. Maybe the seller is not responding in a timely fashion and it's making the call a little awkward. And then there's question rate and customer story. Question rate's another great one to see what people are doing well and scale what's going well. So say that there's someone on your team that is absolutely killing it, and you notice that their question rate is a certain number. You dig in, you can actually see what questions they're asking. Then you can you can scale that across your team and actually change what your discovery process might be, because now you have some validation that things are going well. And so those are some really compelling ones. I'm actually going to kick it back over to James so we can show you what this looks like in the product.
Yeah, let's do this in Apollo. I hate to say that before the slide is up. There we go. Let's do it in Apollo. Now it feels better, right? Yeah, and there's a few things I saw in chat. Can we have the AI bot during the call? So I'm going to go in, I'll show you exactly what you can see, what it produces, different ways you can use it. Everything we just discussed, I'll show you where it lives. Somebody else asks, is this an add-on? It's built into Apollo. You've already got it there, no matter what tier you're on. There's limitations on the free basic plans, obviously, but you can use it today. And then Martin was asking, so this is like using your conversations, your meeting as a prompt with AI and to ask whatever you want. Exactly. And I'll go in and I'll show it to you right where it lives, and we'll ask a question on one of my meetings. I think you'll be blown. This is something I wish I had when I was selling full cycle at Career Builder on the mid-market enterprise side. I still have a OneNote that's like 6 gigs. It takes a lot of notes when you're, especially with multi-threading or longer term deals. So let me get logged in here and I'll show it to you. Perfect. So here we're at the home screen. You might not have noticed conversations if you keep this collapse on the side here, but you'll notice right under win and close, course, there's meetings. If you don't have something to set up those easy meeting links, right, where people book time, you've already got that in Apollo. A lot of people don't know that. And then you got conversations right here. This is where it lives. When you first click in, it's going to take you to basically a conversations home screen. You'll notice that you can see some of the metrics at the top, your interactivity, call volume, that sort of thing. But what you're probably most concerned with is your recorded meetings and your upcoming meetings. So you'll see them down here, a snapshot of the call, when it occurred. If there's, you could obviously leave comments and tag other people in. So if you have to integrate like account managers, your boss, their boss, solution architect, people who run different products, this is nice and simple to show them exactly the moment you want. And you'll see what stage it is in as well. So let me click into one of these to show you. When you hop into one of your recorded meetings, oh, I'm sorry, I should have showed you one other thing. You don't have to record all your meetings. I saw some people asking about that in chat. You can see all your upcoming meetings here. You could toggle on, off recording. You could set some to be hidden, set visibility to private. You don't even want the like organization to really know about it, but you'll see all your upcoming meetings here that are set to record or not record. When you hop into one of your meetings that's already occurred, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to see your recording here, the basics. What do you expect when you're recording a call? You want the video, right? What happened? And you want the transcript. So that's going to be available here. You see the video. It's going to break down for you when people were talking, how much. I think the metrics that were just presented, I'm not doing too good here. I was talking 68% on this one. But you'll see it all. It'll even show you when you're screen sharing, that sort of thing. You'll have the transcript right over here. You'll notice that at the top, summary, transcript, trackers, and comments. If you want the transcript, I know that most of you are probably thinking, I don't want the transcript. There's something really cool you can do with the transcript. Give me 1 second, I'll show it to you. It ends up becoming really impactful. But the summary page, right when you start, you're going to notice that the notes on the summary page are better than if you're still typing, right, or writing stuff down. The notes on the summary page are richer, more dynamic, or picking up more than you're ever going to write down. I still like to write things down. It helps me remember stuff. It's a sign of respect for certain types of meetings. But this is going to be better than anything I've ever captured in notes. And people were asking, well, what about, do people like when you record? People don't. I was recording all my meetings with a cell phone or a tape recorder. When you're selling enterprise deals, you need to know, you can't be 6 months into a deal and not remember what somebody said or what's important or some specific thing, right? So you got to capture everything. So you're going to have that all here. It's going to pick it up in a way that you wouldn't ever be able to write. You'll see outcome, a recap, next steps that were discussed, the objections that were brought up. Let me scroll back. Let me scroll down and get back into it. The objections that were brought up by the prospect, pain points, and then it'll even break out all the questions that were asked if you want to find something specific that was asked and answered. You could just click on those and it'll take you to that moment. Now, the cool thing you could do with the transcript, and this, I didn't actually know about this previously. I don't know if it's new or not, but somebody was doing it this week when I was asking questions and it blew me away. You can highlight anything in a transcript and have multiple options for sharing it or sending the clip, that sort of thing. So let's just say there's something somebody said that you need to share with somebody else. Maybe you want to share with the prospect, maybe your boss, maybe a coworker. You just highlight it in the transcript. You have the option of copying, leaving a comment right there and tagging somebody in if you want. You could generate a clip of just that moment, whatever you highlight here, and you could share it directly from inside Apollo. Again, for your prospect, for a coworker, whatever you need. Of course, I've not used this too much, but for some folks, depending on how long your meetings are, this could be really helpful. You can search the transcript for anything that might have been mentioned. Now, when you set up your trackers, the ones you have turned on, the ones that are mentioned will show up right here. You'll be able to see everything that was mentioned in the trackers you've set up on one screen. Again, I'll show you where you can find those filters to filter old leads too. Again, that was an idea that I thought was genius. I'd never done that. I definitely would have loved to have done that when I was managing teams at Career Builder. And of course, you get your comments. You can tag people in. It could be a source of truth on what happened on the meeting. If you're working at some place or you ever did work at a place where you got to tie a lot of folks in, you'll see that how much easier this will be than what you're having to go through previously. So Ask Apollo, to me, this is the coolest thing. It's turned on for everybody. A lot of times Apollo beta test things and only like 10% of people or people who've signed up for it. I can't think of it. Is it soft launch or soft beta where everybody can have this? It's in beta. You can get details in our knowledge base and on our website, but you can use this today with your Apollo account. That's always saying go create a free one. If you want to test this out on some meetings, you could use this right now, even with the free one. You just click Ask Apollo about this meeting, And it's going to ask you, what do you want to know? So I could say, hey, what did Sunny care about most? Let me zoom in. I assume on a webinar, things are always a little bit grainier. What did Sunny care about most at the bottom? Type it in. And maybe some of you already, I know some people, I've done this, are copying transcript or meetings, notes, different things into ChatGPT, asking questions over there. But now right on your meeting, you can ask any question. And here's a breakdown of the response from Apollo. Here's the top 5 things Sunny cared about. And you could ask anything, right? Because I've even seen people using this to ask for when did they seem to be most engaged, when was their anxiety, that sort of thing. You're leveraging the power of that type of AI to analyze everything that happened in a meeting. I've seen the longer meetings certainly seem to have a richer palette for Ask Apollo. Then you're going to have not much there on a 3-minute meeting, but it's going to be useful in all of those. So the next thing was keyword. Let me show you the keyword trackers real quick, just because I saw some folks talking about that being genius. I agree. It wasn't something I set up myself. But when you go to search, if you want to take advantage of this, and you'll kick yourself if you don't set this up for in the future. In search, when you go to more filters, there's a whole bunch of things here a lot of folks don't see. And I do these daily sales trainings. I know that a lot of folks don't see it because most of the time it's the first time people have clicked in here or really pondered what some of these filters do. But when you click more filters, you'll see a whole bunch more pop out. There's the ones that you may want, the person and company info, maybe you've used those before. But over here is where you got some more interesting ones that most of them require some level of integration or data that's already there. So you've got engagement activity data. You can filter old leads that have been worked by yourself or somebody else based on what happened, if they've clicked, but you didn't meet with them, that sort of thing. But the one that blew me away was when I talked to a customer and they were using conversation tracker keywords, popping in the keywords for competitors, scenarios, things that were said, and then clumping those together at the end of the year, giving them to somebody to work, create a custom sequence on that. Things change. I was at Kerbal 10 years. Sometimes there's people beating you up. Other times you're stealing business from them or they raise their prices, that sort of thing. To move that quickly with that filter, that's going to be really impactful for a lot of people. And you want to be targeted anyways. This will allow you to target so easily. You just filter by your engagement activity. If you met with them, if what they said, and you're going to have some really amazing sequences to re-engage with folks. When they say no, it's not no forever, right? It was no for that day. So let me show you, let me show you the automated post-meeting follow-up email. So when you hop into any of your meetings, you'll see there's buttons at the top here. Of course, you can tag things, you can share it with other folks, but there's a big blue button. Oftentimes the action buttons in Apollo are blue. Auto draft email. So let me hit that for you. And it'll pop together an email based on the basic expectations of what people generally want to have in a follow-up. Everybody's going to have their own style, things that are unique or different for their business, their prospect, but it's going to give you a starting point at the very least. And for a lot of you, it might be better than what you're currently sending. So it's going to say, hey, basically, thanks for meeting. Here's a link to the meeting recording. People seem to like that. I doubt most people watch it, but I think they like when they get it. Certainly boosts some credibility and trust that you know what they're talking about. Everything's on the up and up. You're going to have the overview of the meeting right there. Again, using like that ChatGPT type AI. You could always edit this further. The next steps that were identified in the meeting and by who. That was something I really liked. When it shows the next steps, it'll actually say who said it. You could delete it if you want, but I tend to think that that's probably something people really like. And then it'll just leave with, in the meantime, please let me know if there's anything else I can have. You can add from there. Obviously, if you want to use the transcript, what you're getting from the Ask Apollo, you can pop it in there. That's a great starting point. That gives you a lot. And I see people asking right now, they can't be custom. You can't throw a template in there. That's the starting point, kind of the basics, and you could throw more on top of it. But that I asked the same thing as people in chat were. So I'm going to keep pushing on that. So let's get to coaching as well. Now, coaching, I don't know. Coaching sounds boring. When I was practicing this, somebody said that to me. But I think about where I would be in my sales career, what I would have done with my career if I didn't learn from people on the sales floor and have lots of great mentors and coaches. And that's one of the things people are asking for most now. So I just want to show you something real quick on how you can get not only great coaching from your manager, if you're the manager giving it for your team, but also from other people. So let me get to where's scoring. Here we go. On every meeting, you'll notice at the top, you've got your details. scoring, and clips. So Apollo makes it really easy to create these scorecards. Basically, hey, this is what I want you to fill out and judge me on. And why I like this so much is you can, as a seller, as a rep, whoever you want, you can create a scorecard. We've got one here for discovery calls. You preset what questions you want them to answer. If I'm going to go after peer-to-peer feedback, I'm probably going to keep it pretty light. But then you can just hit request score. And you can actually ask one of your teammates, somebody else on the floor. So I know that this is one of the things that managers are saying all the time, that they don't have time to provide coaching. They know they should do it. Majority of salespeople are saying they wish they got more coaching, more feedback, more opportunities to learn. When it's just that one call you pick out, it's really, people get sensitive. You pick out one call, you beat them up on it or say it's good. It's one point in time. When you get more feedback from your teammates, learn by osmosis, see what other people are doing, you end up learning a heck of a lot more. And that's been instrumental for me. So again, I know that seems like kind of a boring thing or educational, but that's going to be a big difference in your future if you take advantage of it. I want to show you a little bit richer palette for coaching and tracking things. So I'm going to change the screen I'm sharing real quick and pop over to a different account just so you can see something that's a little bit more robust. So here's all the recordings on the main Apollo instance. Of course, you're always going to see at the top, now I was talking about this, team average, your average in terms of talk time, where you want to be. Obviously, that'll depend on what type of meetings you're having, what you're selling. You'll have a stats window right here where you can look at activity and interactions across your team, the company, on a variety of different metrics. I'm more interested in interactions personally. So how long people are talking. I like this one a lot, longest customer story. When you see somebody's really good at getting people to talk at length about their pain, their problem themselves, that's usually a good thing. One that I hadn't seen tracked until it was in Apollo, but it makes a lot of sense. I was trained on the golden silence initially, but patience. How long somebody can not go and, be quiet and not say something, not hop in, and the conversation keeps moving. So that's usually a good sign of credibility, trust, people respecting and appreciating that meeting. Now, the thing that I really find amazing, and I think a lot of folks are going to like this, it's such a simple thing. It's almost no work. You can help everybody on the team learn, or your teammates, and you can shine a bright light on them. So there's playlists in Apollo. And this is an easy, simple way, just like in Spotify or YouTube, to put together, quick access to maybe the best discovery calls or the best clips of certain types of moments. Again, because of those keyword trackers, you can pull out all those clips of how people have handled when somebody brings up an objection, a certain competitor, a problem, a reason they do or don't want to buy, and pop them into playlists for either for your own judging and scoring if you're the leader, or for the entire team to learn from. So here's again what were considered the best discovery calls, September 2024. Everybody on the team can learn from them, bang right through them. You bring back, especially for work from home, you bring back that learning by osmosis, learning from each other, all in one place. It's nice and simple. So let's hop out of here. I want to make sure you have enough time for Q&A. Now, again, you can use everything that you just saw in your account today.
I was also going to say that as far as like learning how to set up, to reiterate, this is if you're already in Apollo, if you already have a subscription to Apollo, you already have access to this. All you have to do is simply navigate to conversations and set up and make sure that you're integrating with the video conferencing tool that you use. We'll be sending a resource kit after this as well, which is also available in the docs section if you want to take a peek now. And that'll also go through how to set up as well.
So there's a lot of questions about Ask Apollo and can it search, different capabilities of it. But one here that I see a few folks asking is, can Ask Apollo search multiple meetings or across other data sets, or is it just inside that one meeting?
It's a really good question. So today, in its current beta form, it's only within the one call. The ability to prompt and ask questions across calls is actually currently being built. So that will also be part of this feature. And when that beta does go live, if you're a user of Conversations, you'll definitely be getting a heads up.
Sure. And now there's a couple questions, and I'm going to actually share my screen again while you answer this. But people were saying, how do you set up trackers? And that was something I was supposed to show. Is it okay if I share my screen again real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So that I could show that on screen. Do you mind talking to it while I go over there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here we go.
All right. So yeah, you would go to settings and then trackers here.
Yeah. So, and just so you know, if you're trying to replicate this at home or the office, click on settings at the bottom left. You'll see a conversations option right here, real close to where you just were. And then when you go to the top, you'll see your recording settings. I'm sorry, yeah, I'll let you walk through it.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, you go over to trackers. And what we offer right out of the box are a bunch of pre-built trackers. And so if you're not really sure where to start, that's a great place to start. So if you go over to scroll up and add tracker on the top right there, you will be given the option. So you can either utilize our pre-built trackers, which are, like I said, a great place to start. And then you can also create new trackers. And this is something that is gonna, you're gonna add trackers as you evolve and get, familiar with the product. Things that you might want to build custom are things like, if you're a cybersecurity organization, maybe you want to create a tracker that actually has like other security tech companies on there so you can see what their tech stack is. But then I would say the pre-built ones are actually really wonderful for just identifying like objection language and stakeholder language and things like that. My biggest tip when it comes to trackers is to make sure that you are not being too exact in the terms that you want to track for. So, there's going to be a lot of phrases that you want to try to catch. Try to track things that are very all-inclusive, that'll pick up multiple things. And then if it picks up too much noise, you can always go back and sort of adjust as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, I should have did that during the demo portion, but there we go. I was able to show you that. Thanks for bringing it up, everybody in the chat, because I promised that. So let's get back to Q&A.
I saw lots of questions about multi-language support, so I want to go ahead and address that one. Today we support English. There's other languages that we're currently testing as well, but for languages like Spanish, like yes, we'll transcribe it phonetically. So it's available, but in its current state, it might be a little bit challenging. This is definitely something that's on our radar, and we'll be supporting more languages soon.
Somebody was asking about, Grant was saying, my team likes to use the gap selling methodology. I think that's Keenan, right? In our discovery calls, is the conversations recap customizable so we can help clarify the buyer's current state versus the future state? How would you answer that? And not specifically to gap selling, but is there any customization capability, or will it pick up current state, future state?
So as far as the follow-up or like the summary goes, it's not customizable today. That is also something that's on our radar. So definitely, and that's actually really great feedback that I'm going to share back with product. What you could do to support the methodology that you're using is actually create trackers that maybe pick up on language that aligns with gap selling specifically. So that would be my recommendation today. But yeah, as far as customizing the summary, you might be able to edit the summary today, but it wouldn't be customizable for every single call. So you'd have to go back and edit every single summary today.
Sure. Yeah. And again, I'm not super familiar with, I've seen Keenan talking about it. I think there's some overlap with, I like Sandler selling methodologies. And at least for me, the insights it's picking up, it's going to be when you're talking about future state, current state, past state, those pains, it seems to pick that sort of stuff up. You can also set up keyword trackers like was just mentioned, and Ask Apollo can certainly dive into anything being said. If you're using specific lingo terminology, that'll make it very easy with the trackers, but Ask Apollo should be able to pick up on any of that.
Such a great point. I think you could probably just have a prompt ready to go for every call that is aligned to gap selling, and it should be able to respond with exactly what you're looking for.
Gotcha. Somebody's asking, how do you see the notes as the call is ongoing? Can you see them live?
You cannot see them live. That is a great question. Today, it will only provide the notes to you after the call ends. It's very quick though. Within minutes, you'll get, if you're integrated with Slack, you'll get a notification that it's ready to go, and you'll get an email, and then you can dig into the call and start asking Apollo questions or just reading the summary.
Sure. And there's a lot of questions. Can I set meetings to be recorded by default? There's a lot of variations of this of how do I choose which ones get recorded? How do I know whose is going to be recorded? What's the default and what should it be? What are people asking for that? So
yeah,
if you don't mind addressing that.
What's the default is a tricky question because it depends entirely on your organization. I prefer to record all of my calls, and the way that I have it set up personally is that there is a recording disclosure that is sent out in any emails that I send out that are reminding you about the meeting. And then I just mention it on the call. You can also set it up so that you're able, like there's a prompt that goes live, like in the chat of the call that lets people know it's being recorded. And then it also announces itself. There's a long announcement and a short announcement. So there's a ton of flexible ways to disclose that you're recording the call. And there's also ways for you to, like, if there's a certain prospect of yours that has made it very clear that they never want their calls recorded, you can also include domains that you want to restrict as well. So there's quite a few options.
Yeah, and we've had a ton of questions on people wanting to get this set up today. There's a great doc. There's a link, a ticker at the bottom, great doc on setup and configuration. And it's pretty simple. Once you get through integrating it with whatever Zoom, Teams, and Google Meets, it works on all three of those. So, and then somebody's asking, this is a great question. Can the clips or recordings be shared with customers, even if they don't have an Apollo account? Like what capabilities are there?
Yeah, you can absolutely share clips and calls with people outside of your organization. You can even set up how long you want that clip to be available for to an external party. But yeah, it's very simple. And if you go into if you kind of highlight in the transcript what you want to share specifically, there's a little button that pops up that lets you go ahead and share it. You pop their email address in and it should go ahead and send directly to them.
Okay, and now somebody's asking, there's a few different questions around this, but somebody's saying when you adjust trackers, add, remove keywords, adjust scores, how does that impact scoring or what you're seeing on screen? At least for how I've been using it, it doesn't track keywords retroactively. Only what's set up at the time of the meeting, it'll track it, collate it, store it all, attach it to the records in Apollo. That's why, to me, the setting up the keywords, competitors, objections, all that early gets you a much richer data set. But am I wrong on that?
Yes, you're correct. It does track moving forward. It'll pick up on those keywords, not retroactively. The reason I say don't, I always just want to make sure people don't feel blocked by the keywords. I would say start with some of the pre-built ones and then iterate and adjust as you learn more about what you want to be able to track, but definitely don't let it be a blocker because in my opinion, any AI insight is better than none. So it's better to get something.
Sure. And now there's a whole bunch of people are saying, can I use this with my sales meetings in Zoom, record and use the recording? So, and this may have been asked just before I got into it, but yeah, you can choose what meetings it'll be recorded on. You could always manually turn it off. There's a button to say record now. So if something wasn't scheduled, it wasn't planned to be recorded, it wasn't being captured by Apollo Conversations, you can easily send the recorder over to that meeting. And in the customization features, I don't know if it was mentioned, but you can name the recorder as it shows up in like your Zoom meetings, right? So it could be called Apollo Recorder. It could be called Note Taker. If your company has a mascot, I saw somebody name their Apollo Conversations AI bot, it was some silly name that was like the mascot bear of their company or whatever. And I think somehow they got their profile picture on there. So that's all stuff you can set up along with what you exclude or don't have recorded, right?
Yeah, tons of flexibilities in what you want recorded, what you don't want recorded, when you want to start and when you want to stop. Very similar to the way that you would want to start or stop a recording in Zoom as well.
So I don't know how much we got time for one or two more ones, but Brian had a great question. Are the recordings saved to the contact record or the company record? Like how is it, what's it associated with in Apollo?
It should be associated with the contact. And if that contact is appropriately then assigned to a deal, then it will actually automatically update in your CRM as well. So if you are using Salesforce or HubSpot and you want to push that over to your CRM, it should do that automatically. And if you're using Apollo Deals, it's a really awesome integration as well. So it'll actually just log the entire call for you.
Yeah, and if when you get the replay, you'll notice when I went and showed some of my recordings, you'll see on some of them it says associate deal. If you're using deals or syncing deals up with, let's say, HubSpot, you can actually attach it to the deal, what's in progress. You can attach it to the prospect and the company there. And that's a great place to have everything collated when you got a deal. Your cold emails through your call transcripts if you're dialing inside of Apollo, all the way to your meeting notes, recaps, that sort of thing. Let me grab one more question. Is the recorder one for the whole org, or does every user get their own recorder?
That is a good question. As long as you have an Apollo license, if you have a seat in Apollo, you get your own recorder. But all the calls will appear in your workspace. So, you may have 5 people on your team. They all are going to be able to use the AI call recorder, and then everyone will also be able to see the calls and the AI analysis within Apollo as well. And the other cool thing is, and this is something that I've been doing internally, which is a little creepy, but great learning opportunity for me which is I like to go and listen to other calls and actually use Ask Apollo to get quick summaries on like what went well on this call, what didn't go well, and use those insights to, help with sales training and things like that. So it's actually really fun
Oh,
that you
that's
can.
that's a really good idea. I didn't even think about that. The Ask Apollo being associated right inside conversations is going to open it up so much potential for so many different use cases. And I do think if you're working remote, I could encourage you more. I can't be more adamant about sharing some of your meetings with peers, getting their feedback, creating a culture of that. It's going to help you so much. Most salespeople learn more from their peers and sitting on a sales floor more there than they do in trainings, webinars, or from their boss. So if you're not doing that, try to take advantage of that if you're in Apollo. So I think we're going to put up one more thing. If you're looking for more training, would like to check out Apollo Academy, I would encourage you to bookmark it. I mentioned a few things today. We've got some new Learn Apollo courses up there, how to use Apollo and LinkedIn together, get people's contact information right here on the profile, add them to your sequences, all those additional steps. If you want to use Apollo, the meetings link, if you don't have that calendar, easy link set up, there's a walkthrough there, a whole bunch of things. We got our master classes. That new book is available. Master classes in the book are free. So go check that out. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Happy selling. Bye, y'all.
Thanks all.